What would you do if, right now, every light went out, every car died, and your phone never turned on again? Not just your street, not just your neighborhood. Everywhere, all at once. That is not a power outage. That is something far worse. And the decisions you make in the next 60 minutes determine whether your family survives what comes next. Today, you are getting 11 critical actions that separate the people who make it through an EMP event from the people who don't. These aren't theories, these are real protocols built for the harshest possible reality. And stay with us until the end, because the last few steps are the ones most people completely ignore, and they might actually be the most important ones on the list. Welcome to Survival Shelf. Hit subscribe and let's get into it. The first and biggest mistake most people will make is assuming it's just another power outage. They'll sit on the couch, light a candle, keep checking their phone, and wait for the lights to come back on. In a real EMP event, that waiting costs them everything. So before you do anything else, you need to figure out exactly what you're dealing with. Step outside and look around. Is the darkness limited to your street, or does it go as far as you can see in every direction? A normal outage has edges, an EMP doesn't. Listen for car alarms going off randomly across the neighborhood, not because of a break-in, but because the electronics inside those vehicles have been fried and are triggering on their own. That's a red flag. Try to start your car. If there's nothing, no dashboard lights, no attempt to turn over, nothing at all, check a neighbor's vehicle too. If multiple cars that were running perfectly fine an hour ago are now completely dead, you're starting to get a clearer picture. But the real pest is your small battery-operated devices. A regular power outage doesn't touch those. Your wristwatch still runs, your flashlight still works, a portable radio still picks up a signal. If those things are fine, you're probably dealing with a standard blackout and you wait it out. But if your phone, your laptop, your car, and your battery-operated devices are all dead at the same time, not low on battery, not sleeping, completely unresponsive to anything, you are almost certainly in the middle of a widespread electromagnetic event. The kind where utility crews aren't coming. The kind where the world you woke up in this morning is already gone. Getting this right in the first few minutes matters more than almost anything else you'll do, because a regular blackout calls for patience, and a real EMP calls for immediate action on every front. Every minute you spend waiting and hoping is a minute of critical preparation you will never get back. Once you know what you're dealing with, everything else gets reprioritized instantly, and the very top of that list, above food, above security, above anything else, is water. You have somewhere between 30 and 90 minutes before the taps in your home run dry. City water systems run on massive electric pumps. The second those pumps lose power, they stop. There's a little residual pressure in the lines that keeps water flowing for a short while, but once that's gone, it's gone, and it won't be back for a very long time. So don't think about it, just move. Open every faucet in your home right now and start filling everything you can find. Pots, pitchers, buckets, trash cans, bottles, anything that holds water. Don't be picky about it. Fill whatever you have. Your bathtub is one of your most valuable resources in this moment. A standard tub holds around 50 gallons. Fill it completely. Then go find your water heater. That tank in your basement or utility closet is holding between 30 and 50 gallons of clean, drinkable water that most people never think about. Before you drain it, find the cold water intake valve on top of the unit and shut it off first. If you leave it open, the drop in city water pressure will actually pull your clean water back out into the municipal lines. Shut that valve, then drain the tank and collect every gallon. The basic survival math is 1 gallon per person per day for drinking and minimal hygiene. If you have a family of 4 and you collect 50 gallons in that first hour, you've just bought your family nearly 2 weeks of water, 2 weeks of breathing room while everyone else is already panicking over empty shelves. You can deal with purifying questionable water sources later, but you cannot make water appear from nothing once the infrastructure is empty. This window closes fast and it doesn't reopen. While you're running taps and filling containers, you also need to start thinking about the food in your fridge, because the moment the power died, a clock started on everything inside it. Your refrigerator and freezer are now just insulated boxes slowly warming up to room temperature. You've got roughly 4 hours before the fridge contents enter the bacterial danger zone. First rule, stop opening those doors out of habit. Every time you crack them open, you let cold air out and warm air in. You're actively speeding up the spoilage of your own food supply. Only open them when you have a specific reason. Second, do some quick mental triage. The most vulnerable items, ground meat, dairy, leftovers, raw eggs, need to be cooked and eaten right now as your first meals. Don't try to save them. They will make you sick before you get another chance to eat them safely. And food poisoning without a functioning medical system is genuinely life-threatening. Your freezer gives you more time, but only if you treat it right. A fully packed freezer that stays sealed can hold safe temperatures for around 48 hours. A half-empty one might only... You can help it along by filling any empty space inside with containers of water to add thermal mass, and by wrapping the outside with blankets for extra insulation. If this is happening in winter and it's consistently below freezing outside, use that. Move perishable items into secured outdoor containers that animals can't get into, and let the cold do the work your freezer no longer can. Canned goods and dry foods are completely safe and don't need immediate attention, but anything that normally lives in the fridge is your most time-sensitive problem right now. That clock started the moment the power went out, and it is not waiting for you. With the immediate survival needs handled, you need to shift focus to stabilizing your position for the days ahead. And one of the most overlooked vulnerabilities people carry into any crisis is how completely dependent they are on digital money. The moment an EMP takes down the grid, the entire financial system goes with it. Card readers, ATMs, point-of-sale systems, payment apps, all of them need electricity and network connectivity to work. Both of those things are gone. The money sitting in your bank account right now is just a number on a server somewhere. It might as well not exist. In the early days, and potentially for weeks, the only currency that actually works is physical cash. Eventually, even that will give way to barter, but in those first few days before full breakdown, cash still means something to small shop owners with remaining inventory, and to neighbors willing to trade. Right now, gather every physical dollar in your possession, every wallet, every coat pocket, every junk drawer, every hidden stash you forgot about. Collect all of it and keep it on your person or hidden somewhere only you know. And here's something most people don't think about. Small bills matter enormously. Ones, fives, tens. In a situation where nobody can make electronic transactions and desperation is rising, nobody is going to make change for a $100 bill. Small denominations give you flexibility to make precise transactions without overpaying or advertising that you're carrying significant value. Keep this cash out of sight. Don't flash it. Don't talk about it with people you don't fully trust. Have it ready for those first critical days, but keep it invisible to everyone around you. Your next concern is your vehicle and whether you still have any mobility at all. The hard truth is that most modern vehicles are probably dead after a high-altitude EMP detonation. Every car and truck built after the mid-'80s relies on computer systems and electronic control units to manage the engine and fuel system. These are exactly the kind of sensitive electronics that an EMP destroys most effectively. Analysis suggests the vast majority of vehicles currently on the road would suffer critical failures and just stop working entirely. If your car happened to be turned off at the exact moment of the pulse, there's a small chance some systems survived, but trying to start it right away could create a surge that destroys whatever's left. If you can safely access your vehicle, disconnect both battery terminals. This isolates any surviving electronics from follow-on surges and gives you a chance to assess things properly later. Now, if you happen to own an older vehicle from before the era of computerized engines, something with a points-based ignition and a carburetor rather than electronic fuel injection, you may have just become one of the luckiest people in your neighborhood. Older diesel engines are especially resilient because of how mechanically simple they are. If you have something like that and it runs, that mobility is an enormous advantage. Knowing your transportation situation right now shapes everything that comes next. If you can drive, you have options. If you can't, you're staying put, and your entire strategy needs to reflect that. In the middle of all this chaos, one thing most people won't even think about is protecting any electronics that might have actually survived the initial pulse. Not every device will necessarily be destroyed. Equipment that was powered off, unplugged, or happened to be shielded by building materials at the right moment might still work. Your job is to protect those surviving devices from any follow-on pulses or electrical discharges.
The tool for this is called a Faraday cage, and you can build a basic one right now with stuff you probably already have. The simplest method uses a metal trash can with a tight-fitting metal lid. The detail most people miss is that you need to line the inside with something non-conductive before you put anything in it. Cardboard works great, so does cloth or foam. The reason this matters is that if your devices make direct contact with the metal walls, you actually create a path that defeats the whole point of the shielding. The devices need to sit inside the can without touching the metal. Once it's lined, put your most important surviving electronics in there and seal the lid. A battery-powered AM, FM, or weather radio is the most critical thing you can protect. In a world with no internet, no TV, and no cell service, a working radio might be your only source of information about what's actually happening beyond your street. A working flashlight is invaluable. Spare batteries, any backup communication devices, whatever you have that's worth saving goes in that can. If you don't have a metal trash can, heavy-duty aluminum foil works as an alternative. Wrap the device first in something non-conductive like a folded towel or a plastic bag, then completely cover it in at least 3 full separate layers of foil with no gaps anywhere. A working radio gives you information. Information drives better decisions. Better decisions keep...
Now we need to talk about your family. Because one of the most psychologically damaging things that happens in a grid-down event is not knowing where the people you love are and having no way to reach them. Cell towers go dark almost immediately. Internet fails. Even landlines go down because the switching equipment they rely on needs power. If your spouse is at work, your kids are at school, or anyone in your family is across town when this happens, you have no way to contact them and no way to know if they're safe. That uncertainty alone can push otherwise rational people into dangerous, impulsive decisions. The solution is a plan that was made before the crisis ever arrived. Every single person in your family needs a predetermined meeting point, a specific place where everyone knows to go if communication fails completely. For most families, that primary point is home. If the event happens during the day, every family member needs to know that their one job is to get home by whatever means necessary. You also need backup locations. If your home is inaccessible due to fire or structural damage or dangerous conditions, where does everyone go next? Pick a secondary spot, maybe a trusted relative's home in another part of town. Then pick a third, somewhere prominent and easy to identify that anyone in the family can navigate to without GPS or a phone. Which brings up something important. GPS may not work, and the devices people use to receive it almost certainly won't function. Every meeting point and every route between them needs to be memorized by every family member old enough to act on it. Not saved in a phone, memorized. Practice these routes before any disaster ever happens. Walk them, drive them, make sure your kids know them by heart. The families that find each other quickly in a crisis are the ones who planned for exactly this disconnection long before it happened. With communication sorted, it's time for a completely honest assessment of your food situation. And this needs to happen on day 1, not later when things start running low. Go through every storage space in your home, every cabinet, every pantry shelf, every box in the basement. Pull it all out and write it down on paper. Every can, every bag of rice, every box of pasta, every jar of anything. Write it all down. Then do the math, honestly. An average adult needs around 2,000 calories a day under normal circumstances. Divide your total estimated calories by the number of people in your household. That number tells you how many days of food you're actually holding at normal consumption. Now run that calculation again at 1,500 calories per person per day. That's uncomfortable, but it's sustainable for a healthy adult. And that reduced number tells you how much further you can stretch the same supplies with disciplined rationing. That difference in days might be the difference between running out before help arrives and having just enough time for something to change in your favor. Start rationing on day 1, not when the shelves start looking thin. Day 1. The mental shift required here is real and it's uncomfortable. You are no longer eating for pleasure or routine. You're eating for fuel.
Meals will be repetitive and bland. Accept that now and build your daily intake around caloric efficiency rather than satisfaction. As you work through your food inventory, you also need to start hardening your home, because when supply chains collapse and people run out of food, the social order starts to deteriorate. Not immediately and not universally, but it happens. Knowing that is not pessimism, it's just an accurate read on what desperation does to people. Walk through your home right now and audit every entry point honestly. Exterior doors should have deadbolts at minimum. If your door frames are weak or your strike plates are held in by short screws, that door can be kicked open in a few seconds. Reinforce what you can. Ground floor windows are your next vulnerability. Board them up proactively if you have the materials. Don't wait for a threat to appear. At night, your light discipline matters a lot. If your home is glowing with candles and flashlights while every other house on the street is completely dark, you are advertising that you have resources. That makes you a target. Cover your windows with heavy blankets or anything opaque enough to contain your light. Look exactly like every other dark house on the block. Set up a watch rotation among every capable adult in your household. Someone needs to be awake and monitoring the perimeter at all times. Rotate every few hours without exception, because a person who has been awake for 16 hours straight isn't a guard, they're a liability. Fatigue destroys judgment faster than almost anything else. And adopt what survivalists call the gray man approach in all of your outside interactions. Your goal is to look exactly as lost and affected as everyone else around you. Don't run a generator that broadcasts noise to the whole neighborhood. Don't cook food outside when the smell carries to people who haven't eaten in days. Don't talk about your supplies or your preparations with anyone you haven't fully vetted. Being invisible is one of the most powerful protective tools you have. Once your own household is secure, the 10th step asks you to look a little further and start carefully and selectively building alliances with the right people nearby. Long-term survival in a true grid-down situation is extremely difficult alone. A single household, no matter how well stocked, has limits in terms of labor, security coverage, and skills. Building a small, trusted community around you multiplies what everyone has available. But the word trusted really matters here. In the early days, observe before you approach. Watch how your neighbors are actually behaving under pressure.
The ones worth approaching are the ones who are staying calm, thinking practically, and focused on solving problems rather than panicking or acting erratically. When you do start building those alliances, start with security. A coordinated neighborhood watch covering an entire street or block is exponentially more effective at deterring threats than individual households each standing alone. People looking to take advantage of desperate situations are far less likely to target a neighborhood that has visible, organized presence. Beyond security, the skills people bring to the table become incredibly valuable. A neighbor with medical training becomes critical when hospitals aren't functioning. A mechanic can keep essential equipment running. Someone with gardening knowledge can begin planning food production. Every skill that seemed ordinary in normal life becomes precious in its absence. Share information freely with your trusted group. Share physical resources like food and water only once trust and reciprocity are clearly established. A community that functions on genuine mutual aid dramatically improves the survival odds for every single person within it. The 11th action is the one almost every survival guide leaves out entirely, and yet it might be the thing that ultimately determines whether you make it through the long stretch ahead. Everything up to this point has been about the physical side of survival. This last step is about the psychological side. Most people who experience a power outage assume it'll be resolved in hours or a few days at most. They endure the discomfort because they believe it's temporary. In an EMP event, that assumption quietly destroys morale. Realistic recovery estimates for a true nationwide EMP attack range from several months to several years. You're not in a temporary emergency waiting for resolution. You've entered a new extended reality, and your mindset has to catch up to that immediately. The most effective antidote to psychological collapse in a long-duration crisis is structure. Routine is not a luxury in this situation. It is a survival tool.
Establish a daily schedule and treat it seriously. Specific times for waking up, for assigned tasks, for meals, for rest. Give every person in your household a clear role based on their age and what they're capable of. Children can carry water, help tend a garden, assist with cooking, maintain a fire. Older adults contribute knowledge, experience, and steady judgment. Everyone needs a purpose. Idleness in a crisis doesn't produce rest, it produces anxiety, conflict, and despair. Plan for morale deliberately. This might sound almost trivial against everything else on this list, but it absolutely is not. Hopelessness is lethal. If you have books, read them and share them. If you have board games, use them in the evenings. If anyone in your group plays an instrument, that instrument just became one of the most valuable objects in your possession. The ability to laugh, to connect, to experience something beyond the grinding weight of daily survival is what keeps people human under impossible pressure. You are fighting on two fronts simultaneously in a long-term grid-down scenario. You're fighting for your physical survival, and you're fighting to stay psychologically intact. Let either one go, and you lose both. These 11 actions are the foundation of a rational response to one of the most severe events that could realistically occur. The probability on any given day might seem low, but the consequences if it happens are so total and so long-lasting that they deserve serious attention. And here's the thing that makes all of this worth your time, regardless of whether an EMP ever happens. Every skill covered in this video applies directly to a major hurricane, a prolonged winter storm, a widespread cyber attack on infrastructure, or any other serious disruption to the system's modern life depends on. Securing water, managing food, hardening your home, building community, maintaining your mental health under pressure. These are universal capabilities that pay dividends across every kind of crisis. The grid is more fragile than most people want to believe. The people watching this video are the ones choosing not to pretend otherwise. If this gave you something useful, leave a like and subscribe to Survival Shelf so you never miss what's coming next.